not thinking and just kind of going with the flow, trusting his instincts, which you can kind of get away with more in online chess than over-the-board classical chess. And wow, a bit of a small surprise here. Levon opens with the queen's pawn. That's not the surprise. It's Magnus just pushing the pawn in front of his king one square. He's inviting Levon to occupy the centre here with the white king's pawn. We could see a transposition to the French defence. Magnus has been inviting that a few times this tournament. And yeah, this one not occupying the centre yet does give Levon options.
Yeah, come on. I know what I want him to play here, obviously. Oh, he's put the knight in the way of the pawn.
No Dutch defence for you.
No, but we get a London system.
We do get a London system instead, which is, yeah, very popular opening at all levels, and something that I guess that Magnus plays more with the white pieces than we think Aronian plays generally, I guess. He's had some great games in the London system.
Yeah. Giving him a taste of his own medicine, maybe, Levon. And this is quite a clever move order for white. It does cut out some of black's options. And, OK, black just develops his bishop to a slightly passive square. Not the most typical way of handling the opening.
If you did... I know there's a popular thing online called Guess the ELO. And if black had done that and I had to guess the ELO, I'd say, like, 1,200.
So, already?
Maybe I'll go 1,500, just because bishop in front of the king there is a really rare move, and you're kind of committing the bishop to a slightly passive square. It's a peculiar move, there's no doubt about that. You normally try other setups first, OK, but now he's following up with...
That's unusual, right? I was not expecting that. You know, normally you pick up that pawn and move it one square, and then you adopt a completely different formation. This, I've actually never seen before. This is new.
Yeah.
David, have you seen it before?
Not in this exact position. It's quite a typical idea, but here it just feels a bit loose. It feels inconsistent as well. Black was just getting ready to castle the king to safety. OK, Magnus frowning there. He looks a bit disgusted by his own move. But, yeah, this black pawn will come under attack and he'll need to spend a bit more time defending it.
Yeah, OK, so I've just checked my database. Has been played once before between Gatakamsky, who is a renowned specialist in this particular opening for white. And I think he's an English grandmaster. Used to be Australian, but now English. Can anyone guess?
Used to be Australian?
I think, yeah, or Singaporean, actually.
Daniel Fernandez.
Daniel Fernandez, yeah, Singaporean, I think. Is not.
Is he Australian now, though?
He lives in Australia.
Okay. Represents England.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he plays it, and he's very famous in the UK circles for just playing very quirky stuff.
But I think he got this idea off another grandmaster, Keith Arkell, who Daniel Fernandez said in an interview was one of his favourite players. And Keith Arkell used to play this setup with the white pawns over there. I've also seen Peter Svidler play this in the famous Bunratty tournament in Ireland. And it's a way to sort of unbalance it, I guess, David, just to get a bit of space over there on the queen side and, you know, don't let white have all the room on the board. So it makes positional sense, I feel, to play this way.
There's definitely nothing wrong with what black's doing. It's just maybe a bit provocative because it's not fighting for the centre yet. He's just inviting Levon Aronian, now that white's pieces are nice and centralised, he's inviting him to push forward in the middle of the board. But, OK, Magnus chipping away at the centre. White has erected this really strong kind of pawn centre, typical of the London system. Yep. And you guys have both played the London system on occasion, right? So what would you be thinking here with white, if you were in Levon's shoes? Pretty happy?
I would be happy. I would simply carry on with the old formula. I would just put my king, I would castle it to the right side, and then I would perhaps connect the two rooks by stepping the queen up one square forward to the E2 square, and then I would, at the right time, destabilise on the left side of the board with A to A4.
Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, the London system is an opening that a lot of people have kind of a love-hate relationship with, especially lower down the ELO range, because it is a very good opening to learn. And I don't think there's any doubt about that whatsoever for lower-rated players, because it's what we call a system. You don't really have to memorise individual moves, you have to memorise ideas. It's more important to know the ideas behind the moves you're playing. And I think, in general, that's really good when you're trying to learn an opening. Know the ideas. Don't memorise things, but don't really know what you're memorising. So the London system, without a shadow of doubt, it's very easy to play. You get your pieces in the game. It's a good opening. And I know a lot of players on the black side, they hate playing against the London system because they're like, oh my, it's so boring. It's such a boring opening. But my opinion is it's certainly not a boring opening. It's a very good opening. And like most openings, you can play it in many different ways. You can actually play it incredibly aggressively. And it's been played at top level as well. So I'm a big believer in the London system, actually. I think it's a good opening that you don't have to learn too much theory in order to play. I
think it's a very practical choice. And definitely, like you say, Simon, there will be fun and games. You can have lots of adventures. Like right now, you know, white has just actually occupied the centre with a pawn. And this means that trouble and excitement is brewing. And just to add to the fun and games,
yay!
Well, we are actually going to have a selfie competition today. And we want to know how you're watching the tour, and who you're watching with, and for a chance to win this magnificent Air Things View Plus. Here it is. Then tweet us your selfies using the hashtag #ChessChamps. And can't wait to see all your pictures.
Yeah.
We will feature them on the show. Definitely.
You're always so creative, all our viewers. It's so much fun to watch you guys watch us. Where you're watching, is it inside, is it outside?
It's like Inception, isn't it?
Yeah, tweet your selfies, you guys. We look forward to seeing them, and we'll show them on the screen here. We do have castling. It's a good sign.
It's a good sign for both players. They have finally kind of obeyed those opening rules, and that marks the end of the opening. Both sides have castled. A few things have happened. Maybe if we jump in just to explain what's been going on. We did see white occupy the centre. This is maybe not a typical London system anymore. We have seen white occupy the centre, which sometimes white actually doesn't try to do in the London system. Normally it's about piece play just as much as pawn play. And here, dropping back the bishop is not typical in this setup. I guess white's idea is he just wants to keep these pawns intact as long as possible. And as long as he keeps these pawns here, it's going to be very difficult for black to challenge and fight for space. It's going to be difficult for black to maybe find nice squares for his pieces. I'm expecting maybe at some point the white queen to just sit, just kind of to connect the white rooks, just move out the way. At some point, white can move his rook across, the other rook can come across, and it's just a bit of a waiting game. Will black ever be able to fight for those central squares? For example, if we just see a pawn capture, then it's always a challenge for black. Which pawn do you push in the middle of the board? You can't just sit there and wait forever. Eventually, you need to break out. The problem is if you push this pawn, white will gain space and block things up, opening up a nice diagonal towards the black king. And if you push the other pawn, then again, same problem. Black's knight will have to retreat. White has gained space in the process, and often black is left with a bit of a dead piece, just staring against a stronghold in the center for white. So I'm very interested to see, firstly, how Levon Aronian just goes about improving the white pieces, and whether he moves the queen, one of the rooks maybe. Those would be what I would be looking at least. But second question, how...
Sorry, David, I was just wondering if you're worried about knight b4 in any of these positions, or it's something you think just personally intrigued there, because I would be quite worried about that knight coming there, but maybe I don't need to be.
Yeah, maybe in this position, hitting the bishop if there is an exchange, and if the bishop drops back, maybe the black knight can jump in. So a case very surprising for me. Levon Aronian, he has exchanged first, maybe just afraid of your idea, Simon, there. And now he's moved the queen. So he's lost some influence in the centre, but at least the black knight can never jump forward.
Gives up his centre, though.
I don't like that decision at all, I have to say, you know, because my understanding... I'm such a space monster. I love the centre pawns. I mean, I would have perhaps prevented that knight move in a different way. Not like this. This feels like black is doing well now, all of a sudden. You know, his pieces have got great squares, great diagonals. The queen, you know, she can easily vacate the bottom line and there she goes. The rooks are connected, and it's only white who's going to be challenging for that. Sorry, it's only black who's going to be primed to challenge the open line.
Yeah, black is ready to put his rook on this nice open line. Also, it feels like Levon's playing on the wrong side of the board. He's trying to undermine pawns here, but now after this pawn push, black has the advantage on this left flank. Black has the more advanced pawn, therefore black has more space, and here I wouldn't be surprised if Magnus starts manoeuvring his knight around. This is quite a common idea. Maybe you can manoeuvre it into the center as well. But for example, if white just waits, then jumping in with this knight, you have all sorts of ideas. White doesn't really want to give up the bishop pair and capture this knight, but later on you're attacking this square, you've got outposts, you've got squares to jump into. And what's White doing in the meantime? It seems far-fetched to imagine any attack brewing against the Black King. Black's king doesn't have too many pieces around it, but White will need kind of miracles just to push some pieces towards it.
I've got no idea what Lev's doing.
Yeah,
I'm going to be totally honest.
Surprising.
That pawn capture, giving up his really big pawn in the centre of the board, is so surprising because you give Black 2 monstrous squares. David, you just pointed out one with the knight, and you give up these 2 dart squares because you lost your central pawn. Well, you've exchanged it. Black has a space advantage. You've given up space, and I normally, when you see someone so strong playing an idea that's like you haven't seen before, there's a definite idea behind it. There's a definite positive plan, but I don't know what Lev's plan is in this position. I can't really see it. So
he's lost the flexibility of that pawn centre, and I agree with you, Simon and David. I just don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, that's not saying that he's kind of massively worse as White. It's just no chance of an advantage. He's definitely the one playing for survival here, Levon Aronian, for equality. I guess Levon's idea is maybe at some point, if Black kind of does nothing, to drop his knight back and just initiate a whole bunch of exchanges in the centre. But again, that's not playing for the advantage. That's just playing to draw with White. Yeah, very surprising stuff. I do feel that Magnus, the most ambitious... OK, wow. Kind of guessed his move by accident. He does actually push this pawn forward, just creating some squares for his king later on, just in case. But at some point, Magnus will drop the knight back and start swinging it towards this side of the board, and don't really see what White's doing in the meantime. Very difficult. White can never really arrange pushing this pawn forward in any favourable way, and if he can't push this pawn forward, he'll never get an attack.
I see someone mentioning my courses on the London system. I certainly wouldn't put this game in as a recommended way to play for White. There was many more options. Yeah, it's just very peculiar, isn't it? The way that maybe he's showing a bit of nervousness or fear because he's playing Magnus, which is very peculiar for Lev as well. But I can't really explain this way of playing. In some ways, it's a little bit negative, I feel, to play this way because you're giving up your chances for an advantage, and you're just trying to, I think, go for equality now with the white pieces. So it's a peculiar start to the game here. Well,
what's funny is that when you look at the play, you're like, I agree with everything you say, Simon. But when the camera was on Levon, it looked like happy days. Looked like he was in a good mood and that he got his
He's normally in a good mood, though, isn't he? He's normally smiling. Probably if he's getting checkmated in 3 moves, he'd be doing a little jig as well. But, I mean, I don't know. I mean, is the idea to bring the knight into the centre or something? No? Yeah, OK. He's still playing on the queen side.
This looks like a decent idea, just swapping off pieces. White does kind of suffer from a space disadvantage, so it makes sense to kind of trade off pieces. But, no, he does play on the queen side. He's just trying to undermine the foremost pawn for Black, the furthest advanced of the pawn chain. And this makes sense. I guess if there's a pawn trade here, then I'm not sure which way White captures. But either way, at least you have pressure on this pawn. If these guys disappear, it's just all pawns on one side of the board, likely to be level, likely to be a draw later on. So if all pawns disappear, I think Levon is safe. It's just Magnus pausing right now. And can he keep the integrity of his pawn chain? Can he keep these guys intact? Not an easy job. Maybe we'll see Levon just kind of hoover off all the pieces.
Yeah, you sometimes wonder about b4, don't you, in these positions, but I don't think it's working here. I mean, it's just a typical way to try to, unbalance stuff, but...
You mentioned it before me, Simon. B4.
Very nice.
David, you are the king of the puns.
Yeah, you really are.
You are.
This makes some sense. It's a bit of a face-off between these pawns, these 4 pawns here. But either way, it looks like all of them eventually will just get traded off.
Yeah, they are facing off, Levon Aronian and Magnus Carlsen, sitting inside the esports arena in Miami. And right outside the arena, we have reporter Sverre out in the nice Miami weather. What's the weather report today, Sverre?
These are the kind of days. I think the weather report is absolutely wonderful chess weather, pretty much. This is actually, in my opinion, the best weather for being a chess reporter. I think that's where we're going to settle it. So outside here of the Eden Rock Hotel, I have a wonderful guest with me as well. I have tour director Arne Horvei. And Arne, one of the talking points going into today was a tweet coming from Hans Niemann. He's saying, I'm going to let the chess speak for itself. I'm not going to do any interviews. As a tour director, what do you think about that?
I think that is first and foremost a cool tweet from Hans Niemann, that he is kind of bantering with us, and let him have fun with that. And I do think that he's gonna stop by you at some point today anyhow, so that's just cool.
No Niemann bantering, you really think so?
I think that might happen from time to time, yes.
Well, I mean, we are currently at this wonderful Eden Rock Hotel. I mean, if we're looking at the background of you right now, we're seeing blue waters, we're seeing an amazing beach. How did you even come about this as a chess venue?
Well, when you're looking into new things, you really have to take it to the next level. Coming here to Miami, it's what is in the dialogue with the FTX. We decided that Miami should be the venue for this cup. And then to find the right location, we actually went here a couple of months ago and did venue scouting, and then found the Eden Rock Hotel, and just decided this is the place to be. Amazing to be here as organizers, and I do believe also the players really enjoy being here.
Yeah, because the field is amazing. I mean, we've gotten so many top players. It must have been an easy yes from a lot of the players, that, especially those who weren't necessarily qualified.
Indeed, both with the prize fund and the extra Bitcoin prize fund here, and the surroundings and the tempo we have here, everything they can do on the side as well, they're really enjoying it.
It's called the FTX Crypto Cup, and FTX is not only a sponsor for this event, they're really a partner. They're playing an active part in this whole tournament as well.
Indeed. We, in partnership with the FTX, we have also then decided to set the strike price of $100,000 in Bitcoin, and following that throughout the tournament. And that is really cool to be involved with a partner in that way as well.
So as you can tell, Kaya, we're really suffering here in the Miami sun. You know, it's a tough job, but someone's got to do it.
Oh, I feel so sorry for you. And I have to say, Arne looking very cool with his sunglasses there. I was wondering, Sverre, how about you guys join our selfie competition today? Can we see a selfie from you guys posted on Twitter on #ChessChamps?
Can we do a selfie, Arne? Kaya is asking us for that.
Of course, you have.
I mean, this is a proactive man. He's a tour director. He's already up with his phone, and I'm saying, we're ready to go. We're definitely doing the selfie competition. I hope everyone else joins as well, because someone has got to look prettier than this guy at least, and maybe even you.
I think maybe.
You didn't remember to do landscape mode, Juveka. Do a landscape mode as well and post it on #ChessChamps for a chance to win the very cool Air Things View Plus. Thank you, Arne and Sverre in Miami. I'm looking forward to see that selfie on Twitter. And we heard a lot of moves coming out in the game. Magnus thinking for 3 minutes before he made some moves.
Yeah, a lot of moves. And Magnus's time is a bit worrying for him. Down to 7 minutes, Levon up at 12. And the whole queen side, all of the pawns have disappeared. They've all been traded off, as we kind of predicted. And this last move, is Levon Aronian maybe threatening a sacrifice here? Does he have some nasty plans up his sleeve? Let's jump in to see what happened. And here we left the position just after Levon Aronian had pushed his pawn forward. We did see this pawn captured, and Magnus thought, OK, these pawns are equally weak. Let's just trade those off as well. And now jumping into the centre with the white knight. And at first I thought, oh, this hangs a pawn. Black is attacking this pawn once, twice with his pieces. But if Black takes this pawn, I guess Levon Aronian's idea is to maybe sacrifice on this square, and it's just chaos. I'm really struggling to calculate this, to be honest, but at the very least, White will give a check, maybe take off the Black rook, and Black's pieces do look very loose. They are all pretty much undefended, and it just feels like something might drop long term. This one is very complicated. This is the type of thing Magnus has to calculate and evaluate, this type of sacrifice, this check. And if you want to stop this sacrifice, knight takes pawn, what do you do as Magnus? And, OK, he brings his queen into the centre. It does cover this square. It also potentially threatens rook takes knight, winning 2 pieces for a rook. But it does feel a bit loose again. This queen now on a square can be attacked. At the very least, Levon Aronian can drop his knight back to where it came from and attack the queen, and maybe ask Magnus, are you ready to repeat the position? Are you ready to put your queen on a different square? What do you guys think? It feels as if something's about to happen. Despite the fact that all the queenside pawns have been traded, there's still all the heavy pieces on the board, all the minor pieces as well.
I mean, it looks like he's walking into a pawn attack there with the queen. I mean, that'd be the first move that I consider. Just attack the queen with a pawn. I kind of want to go aggressive here, use those pawns. Aronian's light square bishop, as you pointed out, is a fantastic piece. And the knight combined with that is very good. And this kind of formation of using 2 pawns to improve the range of the light square bishop in some cases was an idea that Bobby Fischer used very often in the Sicilian opening. And it might be something that at least scares me a bit here with the black pieces. I'm finding Magnus's queen e5 a bit peculiar, to be honest. And we have had this on the board. And I don't know if you push that pawn again, or you could even consider pushing the other pawn. It just, it's like Magnus is saying to Aronian, play this move. And it's like, I'd be so scared to allow that pawn to come forwards with tempo. I mean, that would terrify me. I never allow that move to occur. So I'm just a bit surprised by that move that Magnus played.
Yeah, it's very surprising, especially because the queen has now just dashed back to the b8 square as well. And, I mean, the sacrifices that David mentioned as well, knight takes pawn still in the air. I'm also really terrified of your move, lengthening the bishop, Simon. And, yeah, I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's just provocation. That's been Magnus's kind of calling card this tournament so far. It feels like every day, every game, he's in the mood to provoke his opponent. And I think long term, despite the fact he's lost a move with the black queen, he's hoping that this move actually weakens White's king. White's king will have less protection. I guess long term as well, this bishop has some ideas along this diagonal. White's central pawns are quite weak. But it's just about whether he can survive the next few moves. And this sacrifice is the key question right now. Can White get away with taking this pawn? I guess we would see an exchange here and Black's king run away to safety. And White can take this rook, might as well. The question is here, White has rook and 2 pawns for 2 minor pieces. Black, in return, has a bishop and a knight, which is better? What's the better assortment? I have no idea, to be honest. It's so hard to judge. On one hand, you could make an argument for White's pawns being strong. On the other hand, you could make an argument for Black's bishops being very having a lot of potential here. And especially if you push the pawns forward, you just give away squares to Black's minor pieces. They start jumping in, they start threatening stuff. So, yeah, really hard to evaluate. Magnus provoking Levon forward, and Levon has to decide, does he go all in and just capture this pawn now and take a big risk in a position that's so irrational and hard to judge? Or does he maybe play a quieter move? I mean, I like your one, Simon, to be honest. The question, I guess, is where to go if Black just blocks it. You have one great piece, but maybe that's it for now.
Yeah, if there's not a follow-up there, then maybe it's a move to avoid. But, I mean, even here, obviously, I'm looking at sacrificing the bishop and throwing the knight in. But if I'm going to do... Or throwing the knight in. But if I'm going to do that, I should probably just take that pawn in the first place. Why am I doing it this way around? Maybe even the other pawn as well is... You can think about moving that first. And then, in some cases, I'd love to move the f-pawn now, but it might not work because the queen takes pawn. Yeah. But this is the kind of thing that Lev will certainly be calculating, because those pawns, they're very dangerous if they can get motoring. But I don't think it works here. But he's certainly going to be looking at all these possibilities. There's a lot to consider in the position.
I mean, the position is also so open that maybe White can even think about bringing extra pieces to the attack. So also I was kind of inspired by Magnus and thinking, maybe I can put the rook, line it up against the queen, and I'm banking on the activity just to kind of offset this pawn that's up for grabs on e5, e4.
One thing I'm amazed at is just the provocation, David and Ivanka, that this queen e5 move from Magnus, you mentioned it, David. I would never think of provoking a move like that. It just shows a different level of understanding. How many players would play queen e5 there? Yeah. I don't know anyone who'd play that move to willingly go into this dangerous-looking position.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's literally lost a move, as you mentioned, Simon. Here, I mean, he could have just retreated his queen immediately, but he has the same position now with White's pawn on this square, and he has gone for it. We did see Stockfish, the computer moves there on our screens for a moment, and the computer, after this queen jumping forward and retreating, it did say that White's best move was to indeed capture this pawn, and he's gone for it, Levon Aronian. And after a capture here, this is a check, a double attack. And at the very end, we saw White's bishop capture. So it is that scenario of rook and 2 pawns. Me and my arrows getting confused again there, but it is rook and 2 pawns for 2 black pieces. And I would take the pieces, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a famous book, Chess Icicles, the only book actually written in the North Pole. When
it's
the explorer was
up there.
North Pole. Yeah, the explorer was up there, and he got stuck out. OK, I'm just making up. Yeah. Oh, you banker, you got there first. OK, I nearly. I'm sure I could have had someone there. No, but it's a very... it didn't work. Very interesting imbalance.
Nearly got us, Simon.
Nearly. I don't think I'm going to pass that one anymore, am I? Chess Icicles, where did that come from?
I completely believed you.
I could have tried a bit more there, couldn't I? Nearly.
You had me. You just need to team up with these two.
Your banker was just looking at me like, you idiot, Simon. You idiots. And I was like, OK. Yeah, it didn't work.
What was the name?
Chess Icicles by an explorer on the North Pole.
There we have it.
It was a little bit too extreme, really, wasn't it? Yeah. But yeah, it's a very interesting imbalance, isn't it? I mean, normally the 2 minor pieces are a bit easier to play, would you say, David, in the position? Or?
Especially with less time on your clock, especially in rapid chess, blitz chess, the conventional wisdom says you'd rather take minor pieces just because there are 2 of them. White's pawns, they have a role to play, but White's rooks, it's not clear where they go. Whereas, OK, Magnus there singing along to some song, clearly. But, wow, OK, White's rook diving in. I was going to say it's not clear where the rooks go, but this looks like a very odd choice of square. It just looks so loose, somehow. It's defended by White's bishop, White's dark square bishop, but it can get kicked away.
Yeah. And it does get kicked away.
Yeah, trade of dark squared bishops, and suddenly White has a real dilemma. The White rook is loose, and also there is a pawn after... OK, I was going to say after the White rook retreats, Black's queen could have come out and captured White's f-pawn, but no, that's no longer possible. Black's queen is tied down to her bishop. In one way, that's a good exchange for White. I quite like what's just happened, the transition, because Black no longer has a bishop pair. Previously, Black had 2 bishops, White only had 1. Now 1 bishop alone might not do the job, but at the same time, White's rooks do make an odd impression. They're either very strong or they're very kind of poorly placed. What do you guys think of this?
Very, very unusual position, I have to say. I haven't seen it, actually, 2 rooks lined up on that, but they have nowhere to go to. And, I mean, maybe the big issue is, like, whether White's e-pawn is actually going to get motoring and whether it will actually do some damage in terms of just distracting the Black forces.
Yeah, it's Black's move, so he needs to come up with something quick. He needs to somehow attack those White rooks, kick them away, or kind of destabilize them. I'm not sure you want to touch the Black queen right now. I don't think the Black rook... Maybe you could make an argument for bringing the Black rook down to the 2nd rank, where it has some targets, but you definitely need to create some threats, as Magnus before, as you mentioned, the White pawns start pushing forward in the centre.
It's one of those positions where, you know, either side plays one bad move, it can collapse, because it's very, very tactical. And I think one of the things that people forget to consider in positions, middle game positions like this, is just how much time you have and the urgency in the position. And when you've got a position that's so open lines, pieces everywhere, you have to play with more urgency. And there's more to worry about, and you have to, every move counts that much more rather than a safe position that's closed up here. I mean, for example, if the rook comes down, maybe the White queen can jump in. It's like, you know, there's so much stuff to consider here. One bad move and it could you know, go wrong. So it's, I mean, I like messy positions generally, but this would be a headache to play for both sides. Really, really complex stuff.
You mentioned this rook coming in and White could jump forward and suddenly everything's under fire, right? This bishop, this knight. White's knight is under fire. I mean, there's all these captures that you just... I mean, it's so easy to get confused as a human here. Maybe the Black queen could jump in and capture a pawn. It's just chaos. There's captures all over the place. And it's not clear whose king is safer, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I'd be fascinated to see the top computer choice, because for me, I wouldn't even know where to start. I would look at the threats, maybe such as bringing the rook down to the 2nd rank, maybe such as bringing the knight to this square, hitting the rook in the corner. Maybe if you want to play it safe, retreat the knight, hit this rook. But it's not clear where to start and which one to kind of... normally there are 2 clear variations and you compare them, you decide, OK, at the end of this one, I have an easy position to play. At the end of the other one, maybe I have a slight disadvantage. Here, who knows? It's just that kind of position. And that's why I think Levon is looking so confident and relaxed, because he's saying, OK, Magnus, he's thinking, he's lower on the clock right now. I'll just react to whatever black does. And sometimes that's the best strategy in such wild positions. OK, the knight does indeed go back and kick away this rook.
And it's kind of like there's pieces and pawns all over the board. It's like you have to keep your eye on everything and all squares on this board. Is that difficult?
Yeah, extremely difficult. Sometimes it's nice having lots of pawns because then at least it's one half of the board is blocked. You can focus on one one corner. But here you need to focus on, for example, this side of the board. Later on, you need to be careful the black king doesn't get checked. I was about to say, if the rook retreats, suddenly you have to worry about the black queen jumping from one side to the other, capturing a pawn. Suddenly black would be winning. So you can't retreat the rook, you have to counterattack. And counterattacking against this rook now means that, yeah, big question again for Magnus. I don't think you want to exchange because suddenly black has lost his rook, black has lost control over the lines, the files, and white really is ready to start pumping these pawns forward.
I suppose the danger for Magnus, I mean, I'm thinking maybe Magnus is in more danger here because generally if the queens come off, then white is doing very well. That's when the rook can be more powerful than the two minor pieces, I would have thought. So Magnus kind of has to, I would imagine, just avoid exchanging queens at least.
Yeah.
So it's like a little bit more danger for black here, you know, being careful what pieces are exchanged, where white doesn't have to worry about that. You can offer exchange of queens and you have to keep counter-attacking as he does here. I mean, he's keeping the threats going, attacking that knight in the middle of the board, and it's just a mess. I mean, this position, really hard to play, really, really hard. It's like someone's just throwing the pieces on the board.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, you know, it seems to me that every single move just needs to be assessed on a move-by-move basis. Safety first. Both sides are just looking to kind of anchor their pieces and also at the same time give them good purpose. I like Magnus's last move, you know, putting his knight on a safe square and releasing the light squared bishop, but it doesn't have a threat though.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is a position we talked about. The London system is a system where you can talk about the ideas behind the moves. This is more a calculating position. So you have positions where you can generalise more, but this position, you can't really generalise that much, right? As you said, it is a move by move. Like one move will change the whole position. It's very tactical, and you know, it's not easy to just find, you know, generalise what both sides should be doing here.
Yeah. For me, I mean, the only thing I would say is both sides must activate their pieces at the end and protect the king. Both sides, again, have to always look after their king because it could be getting checkmated. One wrong move, a piece is going to fall off. And, OK,
double attack from Levon Aronian, hitting black's rook and black's bishop with the white queen, and Magnus reacts by defending everything. The black queen, oh, OK, Levon Aronian shaking his head there. I don't like the fact that white kind of decentralized his queen. White's queen, it was just kind of a one-move threat. That's the type of thing that maybe when we're starting chess, we are very attracted to, just kind of double attack. And sometimes they work, but if they don't, then you might have worsened your pieces in the process. And suddenly, white's pawns in the center, both of them are under fire.
Yeah, I mean, the queen was doing such a good defensive and aggressive job there on the e3 square. Now the white king, is vulnerable. It can be exposed and open to attack on the diagonal. And black's pieces are now suddenly very well poised to start attacking the e4 pawn. I think black is actually much better now.
Yeah. Seems like the first mistake, right?
Maybe, yeah. It's been a very high-quality game, actually, despite the fact it's been so complicated. Usually, we would see mistakes, or at least some mistakes here and there in such a wild position. But, yeah, I'm not sure about much better. I would take black, but I would still think that with best play, white should be OK somehow here. Maybe the best move is bringing the white queen back where she came from. Yeah, what else? The white rooks, they're just struggling to kind of break into the position. The squares the white rooks want to use, like going to the top of the board, those squares are all covered by black's bishop.
I just checked the computer evaluations and suggestions, and I have to say it is dangling on a knife edge for white. The best move is, as you suggest, put the queen back to its original square, the e3 square. Second move is actually just a counter-attack and attack the rook. If you don't do those two moves, that's it.
Yeah.
you're going to lose.
It's very hard, though, isn't it? Admitting you've just played a bad move and moving your queen back. You know, that's one of the hardest things in chess to do, to, like, basically, OK, that move was rubbish. I'm going to have to put the queen back there. I've lost, like, 2 tempo. I mean, no one likes doing that, you know, just admitting the mistakes that they've done. So, yeah, I mean, do you think he'll play that, David, put the queen back, or do you think he'll go for something else here?
I think the only way Aronian will ever play that move is just by process of elimination. He can't find anything else, and then he'll admit that, OK, he's lost 2 moves. He'll bring the white queen back to the middle, but it's incredibly hard, like you say, psychologically. I don't think that's the first move he's looking at. He's going to be looking at all sorts of threats, maybe hitting the black rook, hitting the black bishop, but...
So you sort of keep trying to find something else because you don't want to play it.
Exactly.
And he has played something else. He's played this other move you mentioned, Jovanka, which is a counter-attack because he didn't want to admit that his queen move was a mistake, really. But yeah, now it's getting even more complicated. It's so hard to work out. First game of the day, give us some nice London system grind, please. No pieces everywhere. No, we want chess like this because it's great to watch, and these 2 players always provide entertainment, don't they? They're like Magnus said before the game. Lev comes at everyone, including Magnus. He has no fear, and he's done that approach in this game.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, these 2 players, they've played each other hundreds of times in their life, but no 2 games are ever the same. There's always some kind of... They just make it unique somehow. They make it chaotic like this. And, yeah, right now, Black's rook is under fire. What would you... I was about to say, do you give a check?
Well, this is... I mean, is he picking up a pawn here with check?
He is.
Really? Isn't that just massive?
Yeah, I think White's saving grace is to try and swap off the queens. And if White can get the queens off, like you said earlier, at least some of the danger is gone. White has lost a pawn in the process, so it's not great. If there's a queen trade, Black would win another pawn. But Magnus, wow, getting greedy, grabbing everything.
I mean, hasn't this just completely collapsed? I mean, you've lost two of your main assets there. I mean, you might be able to have some drawing chance, as you said, because all the pawns are on one side of the board.
If the queens come off.
If the queens come off, but it's a long way for getting the queens off here as well. And I mean, this has obviously taken a really bad nosedive for Aronian, this position so far.
Yeah.
He's essentially just lost 2 pawns, so now Black has the advantage of bishop and knight worth 6 points against the rook worth 5 points. So up on material, and those black pieces, once they combine, they will do some damage. White's king is probably the weaker of the 2. Black's king has a nice safe square to hide on, and White's king will come under fire from both black knights at some point. OK, a retreat, a bit mysterious.
Yeah, another strange move, I thought there, because I guess White should be trying to exchange pieces, right? And he could have exchanged a pair of knights there with a knight jump attacking the queen. Because I think when you got this position where you got the rook against your opponent's 2 pieces, as we said, we want to get the queen off the board. You want to get down to an ending, really. You just want to make exchanges, get rid of your opponent's dangerous pieces. So a little bit surprised by that. Question is, though, can Magnus now take advantage of what should be a good position for Black, or can White just hold everything? Because pawns are not going to really play a part now, are they? It's just pieces.
Definitely. You know, there's one knight that's not really working, and that's the knight on e7, so it might be a good idea to mobilise that. Also, the white rook is on the same line as the black queen. Is this maybe something to think about and take some preemptive moves against that?
Yeah, so it's not clear who feels more uncomfortable, the white rook or the black queen in the middle. They're just kind of staring off at each other. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Magnus moves the queen. That would be a safe option. This position reminds me of a phrase that Levon Aronian used a couple of days ago in his interview. There we go, Jovanka improving one of the black knights. But Levon, he said catenaccio, like this kind of all backs to the wall defensive job, just all hands on deck, just hold the fort. And I think that's what he'll try to do. He'll just try and curl up into a ball and maybe start by moving the white rook, retreating the white knight, just kind of putting all the pieces around the white king and saying, OK, I don't think you can break through. Is
catenaccio the same as park the bus?
Similar.
Similar. OK, I had never heard of this expression.
It's an Italian phrase. Yeah, it's from some football matches.
Do you use the term park the bus in chess? Or is that only football?
No, it's only football.
Yeah?
I think you can do it in chess. I've parked the bus many times.
I can imagine you're a Park the Bus player.
Yeah. when everything's gone wrong, there's nothing else to do. Why not park the bus in front of your goal mouth?
I've never really heard that before, park the bus. I mean, no, I haven't. So, don't go straight. No, it's probably a saying I'm just not aware of so much. So,
Okay.
park the bus. Oh.
Yeah, meanwhile, just the pieces are dancing around, just finding safer squares. I quite like what Levon's done the last couple of moves, but of course he's still trying to park that bus. And now the white knight. Oh, it's on a bit of a loose square, actually. You've got to be careful where you put it. Do you really have to retreat to the bottom of the board? There's a big threat right now. Black wants to capture the white knight, and there might be some nasty checks. The black queen jumping into the centre with a check.
Looks horrendous, this. I mean, if you compare the safety of the two kings, white's king is now getting attacked. You can't offer the exchange of queens because your rook will fold. And black's knights are ready to jump in. Black's king, completely safe. It can just move one square forwards at any position. And here they come. Here come the knights. And there's a major tactical threat here as well, right? I mean, just to win the game immediately. And I'm not even sure what white can do to stop that.
Yeah, if white were to, for example, push a pawn or do something non-committal, maybe this move, moving into the centre with the queen. Simon, the forced win. Actually, there's two forced wins here. They work in both orders. One, you can jump in with a knight with a check. This is a fork, deflecting away the white queen. And now the white rook would drop. You win a piece in the process. Or you can flip the order of this exact same tactic, and you could first take the rook. And then, after sacrificing your queen, jump in with a check. And here it's even better. You win two pieces. You're 2 pieces up. So white's rook was under fire, as Simon mentions there, and it had to run away. This knight check was too scary. And now it's just a matter of how do you combine these 4 pieces against the white king.
You got the knight stable there as well. Even in this position, the bishop is controlling the knight a little bit here, at least. Great piece there in the middle of the board.
Kept in its box in the stable here.
I mean, black's pieces are all very nicely centralised here. Maybe you bring another knight in.
I was going to say centralise the other knight.
This is a David move. Yeah, this is Magnus.
To play that
Magnus has been spending too much time with David. Clear with that move, So you love those moves, don't you, David?
Exactly. Just look at the black king now. There's never going to be a check against it, and you can kind of refocus your efforts on the white king. At least if the king was kind of here, white would always be able to kind of gain a bit of time hitting the king, but not anymore. And now Levon Aronian reacts to that kind of nice kind of hiding the king move. He reacts to it by retreating. Maybe he wants to use his rook just as a shield on this square or potentially this square, but I agree with you guys. It's time to get this knight into the game. The other 3 pieces look great, so maybe centralise it this way. Not sure where you're going next. At some point later, you'll try and start attacking the king from one angle or the other.
It's very close to having bishop takes pawn here as well. Nearly working. Is it working?
It was so
what's
close.
the idea after knight?
Oh, sorry, the rook.
The rook came.
Yeah, the rook came to. He just pointed that out. So the rook defends pawn. Yeah.
Luckily.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Magnus just improves his knight, and Levon, he's just really struggling here. He's not going to do it.
Yeah.
And
the black queen can attack from this angle. She can later attack from this type of angle as well. White's king is just going to really suffer the next few moves. And look at the black pieces. I mean, these two are just fantastic. Just pointing down the weakness, actually, in white's camp. You mentioned it, Simon. There's always going to be tactics against this pawn. It's on a light square, after all. It's going to be targeted kind of X-ray with the bishop, but also with the knight. If you could get the other black knight to kind of combine somehow and hit this pawn, it would just be game over. But Magnus still needs the breakthrough. He still needs to break through this kind of park the bus formation that Levon is trying to set up.
Channeling his inner Mourinho, Levon Aronian, and so far doing a good job, I guess.
So far, yeah, but it has worked for him in the past as well. In his previous 2 matches, he's managed to park the bus and defend some horrific positions, it's got to be said. But against the world champion, it's another matter. OK, white's king is safe now for the moment, but I'm wondering whether the other black knight can start jumping in.
I love this move because the knight is now threatening a big check, I think, David, right? With some beautiful mating formations starting to appear around white's king there.
Yeah, and so what can white do? I mean, this pawn is about to drop. We could see a result any moment. Maybe Levon will give up, because how do you save this pawn? OK, he tries to save it by swapping queens. Maybe a good idea, but it feels like there should be a breakthrough somehow.
Yeah, I mean, the pieces are so close. There is a knight check. This is the first move that sort of grabs my attention, when the king has to go to back one square, because otherwise there's a big knight fork. And is there a killer blow here?
I mean, at the very minimum, you just trade off the queens and then you win this pawn, and then you probably win another pawn, and he should be able to grind that out, but Magnus will want more.
Yeah.
In the current position, he'll be looking for a way. OK, he does go for your check, Simon. He'll be looking for a way to go for this white king.
He's gone for the clinical finish, I think, which is
the simple approach.
Yeah.
Check, winning a pawn. The white king only has one square, and he takes this guy too. And yeah, these two pawns eventually will win the game. For example, white can even win 2 pieces for his rook now. He can capture the bishop and kind of win 2 pieces back. But the problem is black emerges with 2 extra pawns, and slowly, eventually, this is winning.
I was going to ask you, though, I mean, because I have seen people draw this particular endgame because they've been a little bit careless. I mean, is this super easy to win?
Yes, I think. I've had it a couple of times myself throughout my career, and those 2 pawns, as long as you don't kind of push them too hastily, as long as you use your king, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Should be if you can get your knight out of the... If you can get your minor pieces maybe a bit closer to your king, I guess, and just push. Probably pretty easy. I mean, we could get down to knight and bishop versus king. Do we think Magnus knows that well, or... Can he demonstrate it to the world?
It's more of a question of how much time does he need on the clock to checkmate with the bishop and knight.
Do you reckon he could do it with, well, with increment? He could do it at any time whatsoever. So, but without increment, how much time?
15 seconds, maybe.
15 seconds.
20 seconds.
That'd be a good challenge. What do you reckon? How much time do you think you'd need, David?
I remember back in 2015, and I was doing some work with Fabiano Caruana, and then we were kind of testing each other. I think he managed to do it in about 15 seconds. Took me about 20, 25 seconds, maybe.
Wow. Yeah.
But that was from the white king starting in the middle of the board, where it's harder to checkmate.
It's very hard, knight and bishop, yeah.
Yeah, but these top players, they know all the checkmating patterns. If it's theoretically winning, they will win it.
Yeah. And it certainly looks like a winning position for Magnus. So I'm going to quickly sneak in on a hallway selfie. Yay! Who sends us greeting from Miami Beach. Oh, there they are. They didn't take the photo in landscape mode, Kaya. I forgot to announce that it has to be landscape mode. And whilst Magnus is contemplating a second move, I can also quickly show Abhishek's selfie. Ooh. And he says ink ideas for David Howell in case he's interested in astronomy. Are you interested in astronomy, David?
Not yet, but there's time for that. I'm interested in tattoos in general. I'm open to ideas.
Yeah.
But ink ideas as in that... Oh, it's a tattoo, right?
Tattoo, yeah.
What is it, Saturn?
It's a planet. I'm actually really into astronomy.
What planet is that then? Is that Saturn?
It was Saturn, I think.
Saturn, okay.
Yeah, with the rings and Saturn. Yeah.
Well, that's a good idea then, for people to send in selfies with their tattoos for some ideas for David, if he's going to get a tattoo at some point.
Yeah, I've been looking for the right design. I've had suggestions of a bishop on the inner arm or something chess-related, but I'm still looking for the perfect...
if it was a chess piece that you would get, which chess... Would it be the bishop?
It would be maybe the bishop pair.
Ah.
2 bishops. Okay, meanwhile, black's king is on the edge of the board, but it's pretty safe.
Why don't you get him like here, like horns? So, 2 bishops there, yeah? Or you could get one of those...
Scare the opponents.
You could get one of those body modifications, you know? Yeah. So they sort of...
Could well do.
Or maybe just glue them to your head.
Actually, during the Olympiad recently, someone I know very well, they mentioned that I seem to like my bishops, that I won my games mostly because I got the bishop pair. And for some reason, my opponents were just giving them to me every game. And it's funny that sometimes non-chess players spot these little patterns that even experienced grandmasters didn't realise.
Oh.
So, yeah, it would definitely be bishops if it's...
Bishop pair.
If anything chess-related.
OK.
David's very good at bashing the bishops.
Bashing the bishops.
Yeah, exactly. And Magnus's bishop looks really strong here as well. Magnus's bishop holding all the light squares. Soon the pawns will start rolling on the dark squares.
And it's, the bar definitely all the way over to Magnus Carlsen in this first game in their rapid match. Remember, it's 4 rapid games to decide the match. And Magnus may be going up in the lead in the match. And also Hans Niemann, look at that. Game 1 against Pragnananda. is Hans Niemann again winning the first game of today against Praggnanandhaa, who is in the lead in the tournament together with Magnus. After 2 matches, the bar all the way over to Hans' side.
Oh, that's super exciting.
Yeah.
Also in part because of whether he will give the interview.
Yeah.
Will he kind of refuse, or will he kind of just say, yeah,
We need
banter?
Yeah.
His chess is doing the talking for him at the moment.
Yeah.
He did in the first round yesterday, didn't he, as well? So, yeah.
He's very sharp in the start of the day, Hans Niemann.
Yeah.
He couldn't keep it up yesterday, and that's going to be so cool to see if he can do today against a very strong Praggnanandhaa. The moves are coming out. Is Magnus getting closer to that win?
I think so.
Or further away?
I think so, but he's done it in a bit of a weird way, right? So he's left his bishop attacked, but he is counter-attacking against the white knight in the centre of the board. He's just trying to trade off white's knight in order to remove any remaining risk. I think there were maybe smoother ways. He's doing it kind of by tactics in order to win. It's probably good enough for white, but for black here, sorry. But yeah, I just feel like he's giving Aronian some chances. There has been a result, however.
There has been a result. Hans Niemann, a win against Praggnanandhaa. Wow, what a start to the day for Hans Niemann. He lost his match against Magnus Carlsen yesterday. And we have been curious to see if he will tilt, but this is just a super strong mentality by the young American. On his home soil, 1 point, taking the lead in the match.
He's like the Hulk, just anger makes him stronger.
Yeah.
Niemann, yeah, he's a quick starter in the match.
Did we get an interview?
I hope so.
Yeah.
But, you know, he said he wouldn't give interviews, so let's see.
Fingers crossed.
Well, I hope he does a one-liner, but obviously with a different catchphrase. Because then that would be awesome. OK, and well, Magnus is simply just rearranging the knights, so he's getting ready to escort that G-pawn to the first row, so it can become a queen. And Aronian only has 10 seconds. It's ticking down. It's now gone to 6 seconds.
It's a massive threat on the board as well. The black knight wants to come and check that white king. How do you stop it? This is just a kind of spite check now for Aronian. He's trying to hope the black king doesn't have a safe square to hide on, but I can see at least one safe square. And there we go, no more checks. Black's knight is pinned, but black's king will do a little bit of a dance and evade all of the potential attacks. And it's coming closer. All of the black pieces, note how they're coordinated, combined, defending each other. It's just great harmony between them. And barring any miraculous stalemate tricks, I think this one is over now. The black king can continue marching into the position.
Yeah, but can't the second knight now join in the operation?
That also looks pretty deadly.
Here it comes.
Checkmate is actually coming. White's king is in a mating net. It can't escape. It's inevitable now. Checkmate in a few moves. Black's knight coming to give a check. Then the pawn will deliver checkmate. Pawn checkmates are quite rare.
There you go. He's thrown in the towel.
It's a win for Magnus Carlsen after 69 moves in Game 1 against Levon Aronian. Black pieces for Magnus and a fantastic